What's going on? We have a lot to talk about. I wasn't able to put a video out yesterday, but I really want to talk about what's ahead in the short term. It looks like a little bit of a warm-up, a brief warm-up, and as we get into the second week of January, someone's probably going to see a big snowstorm. So we're going to get into that. It's December 31st, 2025, New Year's Eve. Let's get into the weather updates. As always, let's quickly start by taking a look at our live radar. We do have some precipitation moving into California, central to southern California, with a little bit of a severe threat out here. Nothing major, stretching from about San Diego to Los Angeles. Small chance, 2% chance. We could see a spin up, a tornado or two. And then we also have a little bit of a wind threat as well. Nothing major, but keep your alerts on out here. And again, with a lot of rainfall in California or anywhere in the desert Southwest, there's going to be a little bit of a flash flooding and mudslide threat. Got a nice little clipper system moving through the upper Midwest here, dropping some snow currently into portions of Minneapolis, Eau Claire, moving towards La Crosse, Green Bay. This isn't going to be a lot, an inch or two for most of us, if that. And then we also have some snow moving into portions of inner New England here in western PA, as you can see. Some more cold air moving down, so could get a little more lake effect snow here over the next 24 to 48 hours. Here's our expected snowfall from the National Weather Service over the next 72 hours. Obviously, not a ton of snowfall in the upper Midwest, a little bit here in Michigan. This is going to be some lake effect, as well as some lake effect out here from Buffalo down through Erie, and then up here Syracuse, Rochester, up to Watertown. Now, some areas could receive a decent amount of snow from this lake effect. You can see here, up to 2 feet. And it's coming down on the radar pretty hard in Buffalo right now. If you're out towards the mid-Atlantic coast here, it's possible we get a dusting over the next 72 hours. You can see up in Boston, maybe we get an inch or two. And then out there in eastern Massachusetts, eastern Maine, could see 7, 8, 9 inches of snow over the next 72 hours. And then in West Virginia mountains, we're getting some accumulation there, as some of this clipper snow begins to move up against the mountains and kind of just stall out and dump that snow for you guys. Portions of northern Indiana and Ohio could also see on the high end 2 to 4 inches of snow potentially, especially northeastern Ohio. And a little bit of snow is expected for the Rockies out west over the next 72 hours. Not much though. Now let's take a look at the next 7 to 10 days. We're going to look at our GFS here. Obviously over the next couple of days, some of the snow beginning to move down towards the coast. Tonight, New Year's Eve, where could we see snow falling? Well, potentially northern Indiana, southern Michigan, portions of Ohio, West Virginia, and then you can see inner New England here. Could have some flakes trying to fall out towards Boston, New York City, and Philly tonight. Flakes, not accumulation, but it is possible with some of this moisture trying to head out there towards the coast. This cold air continues to move into the east as we get into the second, and as we get into the third, we get a little bit of a storm system trying to make its way up and link in with this baroclinic boundary here and link in with our polar jet. This could end up putting a little bit of snowfall through this region here. I think there's a small chance you end up with a tiny bit of snow, maybe 1 to 3 inches somewhere in northern Virginia, DC, Baltimore, Delaware. If this system doesn't really make it far enough north, we may end up with just the rain on the southern end of this and no one sees snow, but there's always that chance for snow when you have moisture moving into that polar jet. Moving into the fourth, moving into the fifth, we've still got some ridging out west, but we start to get a little bit of moisture moving in here. This is going to be low elevation rain, high elevation snow. Still not really making it over into the central Rockies, but as we get into the 6th, the 7th, and the 8th, we get another storm system potentially out there in the west, and we get some more cold air diving into the east. Here we go. This is going to try to put some snow out there in Utah and Colorado. I know you guys really need it. Really, over the next 7 days, this region is running above average temperatures, but also slightly above average precipitation, which is good for you guys. Now, watch what happens here as we get into January 7th, January 8th. Obviously, nice trough digging into the east. This is going to give us the potential for some snow again out towards the mid-Atlantic and New England coast. The Euro sees a different version of this, but it sees something similar. This is very cold air. This is likely going to activate some more lake effect snow, but you get 1, 2 shots of snow back out towards the coast there. Some more clipper snow up there for the upper Midwest, maybe a little bit into Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. The story here with this around January 7th, January 8th is a lot of cold air. And we do have our jet trying to dig pretty far south. We'll have to see if any of the snow does make it down into Maryland, Delaware, portions of Virginia. And then as we get out towards the 9th and 10th, you can see we have a major amplified trough trying to dig in to the northern Rockies on the GFS, setting up a blizzard-like snowstorm potentially for portions of the central to northern plains. You can see ice storm here. This would be a severe weather threat down here. This would be heavy snow to the north. This is a classic major winter storm here with lots of cold air diving down into the southern plains. Obviously, that severe weather potential as we move forward would spread out towards the east. Now, don't watch this exactly how it develops, and I'm going to show you why in a second, but January 11th, 12th, 13th, that cold air then eventually makes it back out east, and we're going to have some chances again for snow, I think, in the south and along the mid-Atlantic and New England coast. Maybe towards the end of the second week instead of towards the beginning or the middle of the second week of January. The timeline is shifting a tiny bit here. So why am I saying don't pay attention to exactly where that storm is? Well, first of all, when we're talking 9 to 10 days out, these models models are not going to predict where the precipitation is going to be perfectly. A lot of times they're not even close. So let's take a look at the European ensemble, because the European ensemble sees something similar to the GFS around this time, but I want to show you how the European ensemble and all its different members handle this. We get out towards January 6th and 7th. This is one thing I wanted to point out. The controller operational runs has us very warm out east during this time. Has all of this warm, has no storm system down to the south, but look at the European ensemble. There are some members that do want some good troughing down here to the southeast, and potentially this could set up colder air and a storm system for the south, for the coast, for the east coast around this 7th and 8th time frame. Obviously, the operational control run doesn't like this, but there are members that still see this playing out. Move forward a little bit more. Watch what happens here as we get into the 9th and the 10th. Some members have this storm system much farther out to the east. We're talking Ohio Valley, potentially out towards the coast. The control likes the storm system, really the highest confidence, through the plains. But again, this is why you can't take a look at your control run and say, okay, this is what's going to happen, because look at the spread on where this trough could dive into the states. Through the Rockies, through the plains, could it move in through the Great Lakes region? There are a lot of possibilities on the table here, but what do we see on the ensembles? Some major cold moving in around the 7th, and then very, very amplified cold air, Arctic air. This would likely be a very strong Arctic blast moving in around the 9th and 10th. This is likely going to give someone big snow. And you can see before then we're a little warm, right, over the next 7 days. And if you watch what's happening up here, Western Canada, Alaska, you see all of this energy beginning to dive south. This is this lagged stratospheric polar vortex breakdown. Watch all that energy beginning to dive south and take over the states here, mid-January. There it is. Very interesting time frame to watch still. 7th through the 14th, second week of January. Someone's going to get a major snowstorm, like I said. And there may be enough energy up here to give us a second round here as we get into the 3rd week of January too. Something to think about, something to watch. You can take a look at the ensemble here, and it is still giving us some decent chances down here in the south. You can see Tennessee, Arkansas, Texas, Oklahoma. And I do think that has to do with, again, as we get into the second week, we see some very, very amplified cold pushing down into this region. We see our polar jet collapsing, and that's going to give us some opportunities down here in the south. We see those opportunities again out here in the mid-Atlantic with the darker grays here on the ensembles. Let's take a look at our temperature anomalies moving out 7 to 10 days. We're cold out east right now, warm out west. As we move forward in time, we have some more cold air coming in here. January 1st, 2nd, big ridge out west. I know a lot of you hate to see that, but it's continuing. Now as we get into January 4th, 5th, this cold air continues to dive out east, but you start to see a little bit of a ridge moving back into the central and southern plains. And that warm air wants to make its way all the way out east. But here we go again. We're still pulling a lot of cold air from that cold pooling in Western Canada up towards Alaska. That air is diving back down here as we get into the 9th, as we get into the 10th. I'd watch this. As I showed you on the European ensemble, some models actually do have this digging in farther west, and this would give us that potential for southern snow, coastal snow. Right now, on the latest GFS, this cold air is diving in a little bit too far east. You wouldn't really have the opportunity for a negatively tilted storm system here. But again, this is just the control run. So getting past the 9th, 10th, this is when things get really interesting on the models. Now it's a little bit far out, but a ton of cold air for everyone in the states. And you move even farther, and we could see even colder air out here trying to dive down behind that. Taking a look at our teleconnections. Here's our European weeklies. Still looking very, very nice for cold air in January. I mean, I don't know what the Arctic Oscillation is doing here, but this would be a polar takeover of the states if our Arctic Oscillation dropped that far south at the end of January. This would be incredible timing. Incredible timing around the coldest time of the year for our AO to go negative off the charts. But take a look at the ensembles. Take a look at the mean. Still wanting to stay negative through January. Even though on the control and operational runs right now, it looks a little bit warmer in the beginning of January. The European weeklies does see that kind of control-wise, as I said, but it wants to get colder and colder as we push through January. Our NAO, North Atlantic Oscillation, mean wants to stay negative. Operational wants to stay negative. Again, this right here, big negative NAO as we get towards the last week, the last week of January. Incredible if you want a chance for a nor'easter or southern snow there. This would be a very negative AO, NAO, WPO. Fantastic setup as we get here, end of the second week into the 3rd week of January for cold and potentially 1 or 2 major snowstorms, blizzards across the states. It all depends though, where does this troughing move in? Northern Rockies, Northern Plains. You want this air to be able to dig and pull off the Gulf if you want some southern snow or snow out towards the East Coast. Again, though, you look at this PNA, you don't see any major ridging through January, so it's still looking much better for the Rockies in January than December. I think we're going to get some decent snow back, start to build up that snowpack in the mountains. I want that for you guys. You've had a terrible year so far. This isn't looking too bad when it comes to the Pacific North American Oscillation. Obviously, you don't want to see any major ridging here because that would shut off that moisture. That would put a big block over the west. I appreciate you guys watching this video. If you like this type of content, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. And if you like the video, like the video. I consistently post videos like this, and I try and stream every day to answer all of your weather-related questions. If you want to join an awesome weather community, the link to my Discord is in the description of all of my YouTube videos and YouTube lives. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video or the next live stream.